Hi, Kiran. Are you able to hear me? No?
You're able to, you're audible.
Okay, great. Thank you. All right. Good morning, everyone. Thanks for joining. So we'll wait for a couple of minutes and we'll start it. Okay. Thanks. So is anyone who just joined today and did not attend the demo session?
That's me.
Okay.
Mhm.
Anyone else? Only one? And rest of all of you joined the session? Okay. I see one more guy. All right. All right. Nevertheless, this will be a kickoff session, like the way we handled the last week. I mean, it's a demo session. So we'll do the same thing today. Just wait for 1 or 2 minutes because this is a kind of a first session. People are expected to join slowly. Just bear with me for it today. All right. I just shared the screen. Everyone able to view my screen? Yes, right? Okay. All right. Hey, good morning, everyone. Thanks for joining the session and welcome to Data Engineering World and myself, PC. And this is a kickoff session for data engineering. And some of you already attended the last Saturday demo session. So this is kind of repetitive, but we'll try to talk about some more apart from the things that we covered in the last session. All right. Okay, let's get into the things. So we are going to talk about data engineering, and I know like for most of you, data engineering is kind of a new terminology, and it's kind of a new thing which you might not have heard, and you must have various doubts what exactly data engineering is all about, what are the things, how it is different from database developer, what are the things associated with the data engineering. So many things comes into your mind when you hear this word. Okay, so if I talk before I get into the basics, if I talk about data engineering, nothing but just getting the data. That's it. Okay. So data engineering is nothing but just to try to get the data. Okay. So in a required form, that's a data engineering responsibility. Okay. In a simple general terminology. Okay. So what exactly data engineering does? As I told, just that they get the data. That's it. Right. So why it is becoming famous, what exactly data engineer role in the day-to-day job career, what exactly it does. Okay, what you need to learn to become a good data engineer, what are the things that are covered as part of the Azure data engineering, why only Azure data engineering, why job opportunities are getting increased day by day in data engineering world, right? And what are the certification that you can attempt for data engineering, right? So these are all the things we'll try to cover today. All right. So let's talk about this one. Before that, so I'll talk about some of the basic questions. I think I asked these questions in the earlier session as well about the data. So what exactly is data? So Swati, you just joined today, right? So can you explain what is data? Do you know like data? What is
Yeah,
data?
yeah. It's an information about any objects or um
Right.
about the world. Any information, like any information about any things about the world or any of the person. Yeah.
Right. So basically, data is nothing but any information. Right? You're right. So if Swati is if I say just Swati, it might not be the data. Okay. If I say student Swati, it might be the data. Okay. And student Swati got 80 out of 100 marks in so and so class in so and so school, then there is a data. Okay, Swati last time got 75 marks, this time she got 80 marks. Okay, then there is a data because I can compare, I can quantify it, I can do some analysis on top of the data, right? So any data, any information which has some significance associated with that, which can be quantified, it's called a data, right? So in the day-to-day life, data plays an important role. Okay, as I mentioned in the previous session. So if I talk about the data from morning to night, we do generate a lot of data every day. Okay, say suppose we get up in the morning. Okay, we open the WhatsApp, then there is a data generation happening. We do some sorry, we play Instagram reels. Okay, then there is a data. We do watch content on the OTT, then there is a data, right? And we do what exactly, so yeah, so we order something to eat from the Swiggy, and we order groceries from the Zepto, right? And we take a Uber or we take a Rapido bike to office or friend's home. Okay, we open a Book My Show to book a ticket. Okay, and what else? We go to restaurant and order something. You order the food, you pay the money, then you eat the food. right? And you go to a petrol bank and get the fuel in your vehicle and pay the bill and generate a receipt over there, right? And you go to a coffee shop and like Starbucks, have a coffee and generate the bill over there, right? So in the day-to-day life, in this way, in this fashion, you're generating a lot of data. Okay, directly or indirectly, you're generating a lot of data. Now imagine how much data is being generated globally in a day for a person. Okay, so this is the reason generation of the data is increasing a lot and lot every day in the similar fashion because of the data is increasing a lot and lot. So the importance or significance of the data is also increasing a lot. So that's what the organization realized. Okay, the data is increasing. We need to tap this data and get some insights of the data, and we need to use it for our business enhancements. Okay, that's how the data engineering came into the picture. Okay, so if you talk about the data movement, data volume, right? Yeah, if the data volume, so almost 328 millions of terabyte of the data is getting created every day globally. Okay, so that is the reason data. So because you know that, right? Everything is getting digitalized nowadays, right? So every earlier OTT was not there, every earlier Rapido was not there, earlier the Uber, Zepto was not there. As more and more industries are getting digitalized, more and more data you are going to get it. Okay, so that is the reason the DE jobs also significantly increasing in the market, and almost 35% of the job market being occupied by the data engineer. That is the reason if you see a LinkedIn or if you see any job portal, you see more and more jobs around the data engineer. Okay, and in the US in the 2024, it's long back. So I mean, so 2 years back itself, the average salary was 125K. Okay, so this is the fastest growing technical role in the job market. I know you must have you must be telling no, it's not A, it's A, but it's not so. Okay, AI, ML. So these are all the fancy things that you see in the job profile in the what do you call in the job market. But if you do a glancing or if you do a deep dive into the job market, you see data engineering occupies the first place in the job market, that you need to remember, right? So what exactly a data engineer does then, why it is becoming famous? Okay, what exactly a data engineer does and why every company is trying to get data engineering onboarded. Let's take. So when you see in the olden days, there was no data, okay, because everything was manual. I mean to say in the 1970s or 60s, with the no computer. So if our parents or if our elder people go to a bank, so that used to be a manual, okay, and even if you go to a what do you call this, a train ticket, railway reservation, that also used to be manual. So there was no data, not much thing to do, so everything is manual, no issues. Okay, but when the concept of data, sorry, when the concept of software introduced, the slowly the digitalization started, right? So if you go to like some what do you call this bank, so what happens? A bank gets the data. My bad, sorry, there is issue some with my mouse, looks like. Yeah, yeah. So this is a UI. This is a database you have. Okay, UI and the database you have, both you have. Now if you see here UI and database, right? So this is a bank, say suppose a railway reservation, you perform some transaction and this guy will book the ticket, or will this guy will accept some money from you and deposit the money, and a transaction will be added into the database. Okay, everything used to be database, because when the software started, slowly the concept of database started. When the concept of application started, there used to be front end and back end. You must be hearing this terminology, front end, back end, and all. So back end is a typical database, front end is typically a UI application. Okay, so what happens? All the transactions will be provided and all the transactions will be generated in the back end, right? That's how it happens in the back end, right? So what happens in the market? Sorry, in the UI. So that when you deposit money, a transaction will be generated in the back end. When you withdraw some money, in the back end, a transaction will be generated. So at the end of the day, what it will do? What the system will do? It will try to collate all the information, will generate reports out of it. Okay, how many customers newly onboarded today to the bank? Okay, how much transactions happened? How much withdrawal happened? How much deposits happen? These are all the various things. Okay, this is what a database. This is what a reporting will be done at the end of the day. So earlier there used to be a same database, and people used to use the same database for getting the reports also. Okay, aggregating the data group by and all. So the same database used to be for the transactions. The same database used to be for the data summary as well. Okay, then the load of database got increased. So in this case, like earlier, like database developer used to be the database developer used to write some procedure. They used to create the tables and they used to manipulate the data. These are all database developer does. Okay. Then the concept of database developer was there. Then over the period of time when the data got increased, so what happens when you use the same database for the transactions, and when you use the same database even for the reporting? So what happens in general when you do two actions on the same thing, same place? So what happens usually? What happens when you perform multiple actions on the same system? What happens in general? Outside of this one also, I'm just asking.
Too much of load for the backend system. The performance
Exactly.
would slow down.
Very good. Yes. Too much of load on the back end because it has to serve the regular things and also it has to serve the reporting as well. So the performance over the period of time will be degraded and you might not be getting the optimal performance for the front end operations. For the these transactions and as well as the reporting. That there is a heavy load is happening over there. So over the period of time, people realize, okay, more and more customers are happening. So because in the initially, of course, there will be less transactions, but over the period of time, more and more transactions, people realize, okay, so as more and more data is getting increased, this is not an optimal solution for the analytics. Okay, that's where they started adding one concept called data warehouse. Okay, data warehouse. So what is the data warehouse? Data warehouse is separated from the regular database, which has some summarized data which will be used only for the reporting purpose or analytical purpose. So that's where data warehousing developer, ETL developer came into the picture. Okay. Now this database developer came to the ETL developer get the data regularly. We'll talk about it in detail in the further session. But at this point of time, I can tell. So this is a separated database from the database which gets only the required data for the analytics, which will be used for the reporting purpose. This is what happened. Okay. Next, what happened? This is all this happening. Then more and more data is increasing because more and more digital is happening. Even this data warehouse capability not enough to handle such amount of massive data. Okay, because people used to use the same SQL server for the database, the same SQL server for the data warehouse also. Okay, even the operations also very slow. Then the system realize, okay, this is the good, but we need to find an optimal way to handle this massive amount of the data. Then the concept of big data came into the picture. If you know, like in 2010 or 8 or somewhere, so the big data jobs were more because people use big data. So we'll talk about what exactly big data is. Nothing but just trying to operate the data which is in a huge volume, which is coming from the different sources, different format. That's a big data. So people started working on the big data, then it solved some problem. Okay, then the big data developer came into the picture. Now, when the cloud introduced in after 2010 or 2012, 13, so the cloud consumption became more and more. Okay, so everyone started using the cloud. When the people started using the cloud more and more, so the data also has to be getting into the cloud, consumed in the cloud. So people realize, okay, there should be a sophisticated way to process or to manage this much amount of data in the cloud. So then there should be a new concept to get all this data or manage the data. Then the concept of data engineering came into the picture. So database developer, ETL developer, BI developer, then the big data developer, then the data engineer. Now you see, as the data is increasing over the period of time slowly, in similar way, the roles also being shifted from one role to another role. So that's how the data engineering came into the picture. So data engineering is all about managing the data or providing the data in the cloud system. That's I can say at the high level. Okay. So what exactly the data engineer does then? Because as I told, like everything is getting digitalized, everything is becoming a cloud adapted. So you'll be getting so much of data, right? So if you talk about some, sorry, if I talk about something called Apollo Hospital, say suppose, okay. So Apollo Hospital will be having systems in multiple systems, okay. It's not a tied to a simple system. There might be ERP, there might be file system, there must be a ERP, there might be an applications as well. Okay, so there must be ERP, there must be application, everything used to be happen, right? So the data spread across multiple places, multiple things, everything is 1 minute, sorry. Yeah. So multiple places, multiple sources, multiple formats. Some data might be in relational data, some might be data in the transactional data, some data might be in the different place, different things. Okay. So what are the people, what exactly we happens now? All this data is available, and there will be a data scientist, okay, or AI developer, or a data analyst, DA. Okay, data analyst means who generates the report. Data scientist and AI means who try to create the models out of the data. So because if you talk any company, say suppose Apollo Hospital. So what they will do, Apollo Hospital, they get the patients and they do operation, they do consultation, they provide some suggestions, everything will be digitalized. If they doesn't just serve the patient and leave it there, they need to do some analytics on top of it. They do some analytics on top of it. That's where the concept of, sorry, that's where they need to provide this data to the data engineer, sorry, data analyst or data scientist, AI developer. These are all data being handled by these guys. Okay, but if you see, the data is spread across multiple places, multiple formats. So what needs to be happen now? This cannot be taken as it is and give it to these guys. These guys doesn't understand, because of the data is in the different system, different format. So there should be a standardized way to get this data in a standardized format, so that these people will consume the data, right? So that's where the concept of data engineering come into the picture. So what exactly the data engineer does? Get this data, try to refine it, transform it, and make sure the data is readily available in the required format. Do these people? So this is where the data engineering come into the picture. Okay. So what exactly data engineer does? Data engineer helps the organization to tap the data in which is in the multiple systems, try to connect the data, try to understand the data, and create something called a pipeline, data pipeline, to get this data into the required format and provide the data to this end users. End users is nothing but data scientist, a data analyst, right? So that's what a data engineer does. Okay, so data engineering is all about getting the data and help the people to do a data-driven decisions. Data-driven decision means suppose all this data is getting the data to data scientist, a data analyst, or AI developer. So what exactly they do? So they try to see if the Apollo Hospital is making a good amount of profits. I should use this for now in this year, and how many operations or surgeries are done by so and so branch, so and so department. If say suppose in so and so city or so and so branch, say suppose in Madhapur branch, a newly established financial district branch, the number of consultations are not getting increased. Okay, our number of heart surgeries are very less compared to any other consultation. And also in the Apollo financial district, only consultations are happening, not much surgeries. Right? So these are all the things they will try to evaluate and see, okay, what you need to do for next 5 years to get this, so to get more and more patients, or how to attract, or do we need to add any, because it's a new branch, do we need to add any kind of health checkup, like free health checkup or health checkups at nominal price. So these are all the things they will try to assess and do a analytics on top of it. Now it is the responsibility of the data engineer to provide all this data in a suitable manner, so that these people will consume the data, right? So that's where the data engineering come into the picture, right? So basically build the pipeline, and also he will try to help fraud detection, and they will in the various industry like banking, healthcare, e-commerce, and also it helps like forecasting, and also he helps try to do a dashboarding, reporting dashboard. So these are all the responsibility data engineer to provide such data. Like fraud detection means like if you are having a credit card and someone steal it, and they are misusing these transactions, your credit card, what happens immediately, the decision has to be taken. So the data has to be live, and real-time data needs to be processed. That's where the data engineering come into the picture, right? So this is about the data. So data engineering is nothing but getting the data from multiple sources and getting the data in the required format, but creating a data pipeline. That is the responsibility of the data engineer. Is everyone able to follow? Any confusion so far? I'm just talking at high level. We'll try to deep dive over the period of time. Any questions so far or no? No questions? I'll take it as a no questions. Okay. Now let's go to next. Yeah. So as I told, a data engineer builds the pipeline that carry data from point A to point B. So basically the plumbers of data. So because there is no data, no insights, because if the tap is not there to provide the data from your centralized location to your home, you don't get the water. Similar thing, same thing over here. So basically what you do, it will build and manage the data pipeline, it design the data warehouse and lakes. So because what happens at the end of the day, all this data in the required format needs to be assembled somewhere, grouped somewhere. That's where data warehouse and lakes he has to produce. And extract, transform, load the data. As I mentioned, the data is in multiple sources. They need to extract it and transform it to the required format and load the data. Deploy cloud-based data solution. So all these data pipelines and solution will be in the cloud. So they are responsible for helping to deploy it. Ensure data quality and security. So this is also very important because sometimes the data might be invalid. So say suppose there are like millions of rows are there, only some rows are qualified enough to validate or do a analysis. So that's where data quality also ensure it. So data quality means like whether the data is good, is there any issues in the data, is there any data, some data is junk, some data is invalid, the data is like very long back, like 1970s, 60s also the data is there, then you don't need the data to analyze. So that kind of data quality checks, he will ensure to implement. And also security, there might be some data, secure data, some credit card information, sensitive data like or SSN number or Aadhaar card number. You should make sure that the data engineer make sure that the data is masked or encrypted, or only out of 10 people, only 2 people who are uh, relevant enough to view the data. So these are all kind of security checks data engineer has to develop, build, implement, right? So basically, he will build the data pipeline, he design the data warehouse lakes, he perform, of course, ELT operations, ETL operations, and he'll make sure to deploy the operations, solutions, and he ensures data quality security checks are there. Of course, he is the kind of backbone of entire data application, whether the AI application or any reporting application, any project, any application. Without data engineer, there is no AI project, there is no analytics project. That is the reason the importance of the data engineer is getting popular day by day. That's what you need to understand. That is the reason if you take any data analytics project, you need minimum 2 to 3 data engineers. If you take an AI project, minimum 2 to 3 data engineers you need. So that is the reason the job market is also increasing for the data engineering. Okay, so who can get into the data engineering? who can get into the data engineering? Anyone who has the passion around the data can get into the data engineering. Whether you can say database developer, okay, if you're a database developer, of course you have like SQL, basic SQL skills, you can directly transfer that into data engineering. And suppose if you're a BA developer, data developer like Informatica, Tableau, or SSIS, you already knows like packages, pipelines, so you can easily shift into this. And if you're DBA, you know DevOps and managed background, so you can get into here. If you're a big data developer, all the big data applications are getting migrated to data engineering. So you can get that thing. Data analyst, if you're a data analyst only doing reporting, that doesn't work out in the future, honestly, because like, but if you have the additional knowledge of the data engineering, I mean to say, what are the data that need to group to get the data inside, that is definitely a great advantage. So that also you can do that. And if you're application developer, which has you have coding skills, which is a huge advantage, so that you can do that. And if you're QA engineer, you know that day by day the QA engineers are getting decreased because everything is kind of AI and automated. So of course you can get into the job market because you have the flexibility. And of course, freshers, if you are students, is a perfect time to build from scratch, right? So these are all the set of people can get into a data engineering. That means irrespective of any your job profile, IT or non-IT, if you have the passion towards the data, if you want to explore the career within the data engineering, definitely you can get into the data engineering. Right? So we spoke about some basics about it and all. So let's talk about actually what exactly data pipeline does. Actually, what exactly data engineering does within the ecosystem. Let's talk about. So sorry. Yeah. So before I get into that, does anyone has any doubts? Is everyone able to follow me? What I'm trying to explain or convey here?
Yes.
Okay. Okay. So if I'm going fast, feel free to stop. And if you feel that I'm going too slow, feel free to push back. So anything, if you are trying to convey, you can raise a flag and tell me upfront, or you can put, there is something called chat. You can put your chat within the chat as. All right. Okay. All right. Now, what exactly data engineer uh, ecosystem, what happens actually? So first you ingest the data. So what I told, like first you need to, because the data will be there in the APIs, applications, database, files, streaming, whatnot. So first you have the ability to connect, you should establish the ability to connect that particular source and get the data. That's where the concept of ingest come into the picture. So ingestion, it's called ingestion. So ingestion is very important thing, even though it looks simple, but it is very one of the very important layer or phase within the data engineering, because you should have the ability to connect to sources, you should have the ability how does it work, what it does. So these are all the things you need to understand. That's where the ingestion come into the picture. Okay, that is the ingestion. So once ingestion is done, then you need to store it somewhere. Store it in the sense you need to store temporarily some location, so that before it gets processed. Okay, so first ingestion, store. So because you're not going to transfer it immediately, it doesn't make any sense. You need to preserve it somewhere in the local before you proceed to process it. That's where you need to store the data somewhere. So in the here, in the ingestion, I'm using some technology called Data Factory, Azure Data Factory, one of the ETL technology. So one of the data engineering technology. And in the for the store, I'm using something called ADLS Gen 2, which is a storage system to store the data. Once it is done, you're going to process the data. Process the data means uh, you're going to transfer the data, you're going to clean it, join it, you do multiple operations on top of it. That's where I'm using something called Databricks Spark. Why I need to process? Because the data is raw, the data is in multiple places, multiple formats. So I'm trying to unify it and transfer the data. As I said, like you might be doing the security checks, you might be joining the data, you might be like implement some data quality checks on top of the data. Everything will be done over here. Okay. So once it is done, you're going to serve it. So because you need to serve it at the one of the layers so that the people will consume it. So here I'm using like Synapse or Fabric or not Power BI actually. Serving this, it can be anything. So here I'm using Synapse Analytics, or I can use Fabric to store the data over here. Okay. So this is a serving, means to efficiently store the data somewhere for the consumption. Okay. So once it is done, then analyze the data. So whether a business insights or AI ML consumer, anyone like their data scientist or data analyst, like AI developer will consume the data. So this 1 to 4 is being done by the data engineer. Now, if you see this data analytics project or data summary data AI project, everything same, just the data engineer does all these key operations. So that is the reason data engineer is called like a backbone of any data analytics project or data science project or AI project, right? So this is how he plays a key important role in ensuring getting the right data from the right place at the right format in the right time. Okay, so that's where data engineering helps a lot in the data project, right? So this is a simple life cycle of any data engineer project. Okay, ingest the data, store the data, process the data, serve the data, and ensure it is providing the data, sufficient data to the right people to analyze the data further. Right? And what are the technology I'm using for ingestion? I'm showing here Data Factory. For storing, I'm using Gen2. Sorry, ADLS, I'm using Databricks. I'm using Synapse, it is Microsoft Fabric. So these are all technologies I placed over here, and these are all not fixed. This can be changed based on various scenarios. So if the more data, there might be some other technology. If the less data, there might be some other technology. If there is a budget constraint, then I will try to use some other technology. And if I transformations are very less, then I might use some other technology. If the customer says that I don't have what do you call expertise in this particular technology, I want to do some so and so technology only, then I will change the technology, right? So various factors comes into picture when you decide, when you try to utilize a tool. Okay, it doesn't mean that every time using only Azure Data Factory ingestion. I'm going to use only Databricks for processing the data. Okay, nothing is fixed. Everything changes based on the various scenarios. Right? So that's about the data engineering, a typical life cycle. Key data engineering tool. Then what exactly you need to learn to become a good data engineer within the Azure ecosystem? So before that, you will find the data engineering in the Azure, you will find in AWS, you will find in the GCP also. Then why Azure only? Because most of the market is being driven by the Azure cloud market, and more companies are adopting the cloud within the Azure. So that is the reason you see more and more data engineering data engineering projects or opportunities within the Azure when you compare to any other system. Okay, you check any job portal, when you type data engineering, you'll see more and more opportunities around the Azure, not any other cloud market. Right? So within the Azure ecosystem, then what you need to learn? First, you need to, so what are things you will be learning, or as part of this project, what you need to learn? One is the data factory. So from where you will be creating the pipelines, and you have the 90 plus connect of the data. So these things, very important thing, which is kind of a plug and play, not exactly, you don't need to write any code. ADF, so data factory, then ADLS Gen 2. So as I told, before you process the data, you need to store the data somewhere. So that's where ADLS comes into the picture. Azure Data Lake Gen 2, so which is kind of a secured cloud storage for, you can store the data, structured data or raw data, unstructured data, you can do that. And Synapse Analytics, which is a unified SQL platform, so which is one of the important thing earlier, but now it is slowly got shifted, and sorry, yeah. So now people, the Microsoft itself is trying to close us, and all the projects are getting shifted to Microsoft Fabric, because this is kind of a enhanced version of Synapse Analytics. That is the reason we are not going to spend time much on this one. Just one session to give the overview, and most of the sessions will be around the Fabric this time. So Fabric is kind of an SaaS market, pipelines, Lakehouse, Pharos, Power BI, everything is integrated to Fabric. Now you don't have any suit called Power BI now, because Power BI is also wrapped under Microsoft Fabric. So because this is kind of a integrated solution where you can do all the operations in a single place. Right? And you have the Databricks. So Databricks is kind of a Spark based platform. So Spark is an open source application. to perform big data big data operations, and you can have anyone can develop their own products out of Spark. So one such application, one such product is Databricks. Okay, Databricks, like day by day the market is increasing and most of the products are getting traded out on the Databricks. Even if you talk about AWS or when you talk about GCP, everywhere Databricks available. So that is the reason we are giving more emphasis on Databricks and Fabric also, because more and more projects are getting adapted to the Fabric from the traditional ecosystem. Microsoft also pushing its customer hardly to adopt the Fabric, because within the one ecosystem you can perform all the actions. So that is the reason we are giving more importance to the Databricks and Microsoft Fabric in this thing. And of course SQL, because without database, there's no data engine. There should be a database also associated with any data engineering project. So as part of this, we are going to cover Azure SQL database also, right? So these are all the things we are going to, you need to learn, or we are going to cover as part of this program, right? So what exactly you'll be build the skills, or you will learn the skills over the period of time. Also you need to learn, one is the SQL and data modeling you should learn. This is the foundation. And of course Python for the data engineering. Without Python, without PySpark, there is no data engineering when you use it. Databricks all around the PySpark. So there is the reason Python for DA we're going to cover, and Spark within the Databricks, and ETL pipelines. Okay, you need to learn Lakehouse architecture. What is the data lake? What is the medallion architecture? What exactly you will be doing in the day-to-day job profile? That you will be learning. Data security. So how do you implement RBAC like controls? How do you monitor the application? How do you mask the data? How do you encrypt the data so that the security will be implemented? So these are all the things you do. And of course, once the application is built, then how do you deploy it? How do you create a CI/CD pipeline? How do you do a cost management? How do you optimize it? Everything you're going to do. Okay, so these are all the things you'll build your skills: SQL, Python, Spark, building the pipelines, building the security, and also building the lakehouse. So these are all the things you'll try to learn as part of this program. And also this is kind of a good skill set, must have skill set to become a good data engineer. And of course, as part of this, I'll be talking about on and off for the DP600 certification. If you learn all these things and if you put some additional effort in reading some theory, then you can crack even the DP600 certification also, which is called Fabric Data. Earlier you used to be like 201, 203, Microsoft Certified Azure Data Engineer, Microsoft Certified Azure Data Engineer 1 and 2 was there. Now everything is got merged. Now they are giving more focus on the Fabric. So that is the reason all certifications are on the Fabric now. Fabric Data Engineer, Fabric Analytic Engineer, these are all the things. So that is the reason it is also there. DP600 you can attempt. So that gives some additional weightage your profile if you attempt this exam. Okay, this is 600. Looks like I did not change heading. Yeah, DP600 Fabric Data Engineer. So this is added very recently. So with this, these are all the things will be analyzed. How do you ingest the data? How do you implement the lakehouse? How do you implement the weight house? How do you manage the environment? So these are all the things will be measured as part of the DP600. Okay. And if I talk about data engineering, what exactly hiring? So banking, fintech, because they need to perform risk analytics, they need to do real-time fraud detections, and healthcare, how the patient's data, like as I mentioned, how the clinic analysis, and e-commerce, of course, like largely they are doing, and MNCs, big tech companies like Microsoft, Infosys, TCS, Wipro, whatnot. If you name it, everyone is hiring the data engineering a lot. And if you talk about salaries, as I mentioned, like most demanding career switch you can think of, 0 to 2 years experience itself, like 6 to 12 lakhs are happening, and 2 to 5 years, 25 lakhs. I know some people who are like 8 to 10 people, they are getting more than 50 lakhs. Okay, for architect is like 50 to 80 lakhs easily they are earning, right? So these are the career path which I wanted to share. Yeah. So why this program? So 2 months real-time projects. So we are going to cover one real-time project end to end, and 100% lab, very 1 or 2 slides before before I start any session, and more of the hands-on. At least for 3-4 days will be a theory to make you understand all these basics. Then everything will be kind of a hands-on. If you talk about Data Factory, Databricks, Fabric, SQL, everything is driven by the practicals So there won't be less, like at 2% of the theory, 90% is kind of more of hands-on and real-time world project. So out of my 20, I have 20 years of experience right from the database developer, data architect. So I can get all the expertise and build good real-time applications so that you can practice end to end. And of course, you can practice for DP600 exam. So I'll try to do some question banks also. I'll try to provide, and also live doubt sessions, and you can take my help for any doubt session within the session, or if you got any doubt, you can ask me in the next session. And placement support means doesn't mean that I'm going to showcase the jobs. It means I'll try to help you to review your resumes. I will help you how do you LinkedIn optimization, and also help you how do you prepare the interview. I can conduct some mock interviews as well. And apart from that, we are going to have 2 sessions for the AI basics. What exactly AI, ML, what exactly AI, and also we'll try to create some agents, which is kind of a talk of the town nowadays within the Fabric. Okay, I'm not going to stop just by talking about the theory within the Fabric. Even we'll try to create one of the few of the agents within the Fabric as well. So this is kind of a data engineer plus basic agentic experience that you will get, which is required for the data engineer. Right? So this is about I wanted to talk about. Right? So this is quick about a data engineering introduction. What exactly data engineer does, what exactly you need to understand, and what exactly you need to learn to become a good data engineer, what a data engineer does, how the opportunities are there, how what we are going to cover as part of this program. Okay, so and also we have one session for the Snowflake introduction. We'll try to add if there is a time. And if you want a detailed content, the Kerenet people will provide you the detailed content. You can go through that and you can ask me if you have any questions in the next session. All right. So this is what I wanted to cover for today as a quick introduction session. And does anyone has any questions? I expect good number of questions.
Yeah, hi. Yeah, Venkatesh this side actually. Yeah, hello.
Yeah, Venkatesh, please tell me.
Yeah, actually, I'm actually my primary skill is actually from I've been 7 years of experience in the IT. Actually, I'm from ETL background. Actually,
Okay, good.
Informatica, Teradata, SQL. So I want to upskill to explore more. So, do you suggest any roadmap apart from the Azure data engineering, or do you have to continue with the Azure data engineering?
So honestly, whether you join this program or not, what is it? Getting into this program helps you a lot. This is a perfect career path for you to move on.
So what are the things? I mean, do you have to learn more on Azure Databricks and Azure Data Factory? I mean, I want to be not a professional. So what are the things in
Fabric. So
sufficient?
just emphasize on Fabric and Bricks, Databricks. These
Azure
two are kind
Databricks.
of
Okay.
yeah. These are the two key things that you need to learn.
So apart from Azure Databricks and Microsoft Fabric, do you have to learn Azure Data? I mean, it is covered in. Sorry, Azure Data Factory is covered in Azure Databricks session, or do you have to learn separately?
Azure Data Factory is an independent topic which you are going to cover as part of this program. And even within the Microsoft Fabric also, Azure Data Factory is available. If you know Azure Data Factory, you can say that you know Data Factory in the Fabric.
Actually, I'm not aware regarding the Azure things. Actually, I'm
Yeah,
purely
yeah, yeah,
from
yeah. I got it. I'm just saying. So Fabric is a kind of integrated suite. You can have Data Factory is enabled, and even the Spark is also enabled over here. Power BI is enabled over here in the Fabric. You can do everything end to end in the Fabric. That is the reason Fabric is becoming more popular nowadays.
yeah. Okay. Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah. Anyone else? Any questions?
Yeah, Python. Sorry to interrupt.
Yeah,
Actually,
yeah. Mhm.
so in this program, the Python basics or the things which is required for Azure Databricks only, it will be there. Actually,
Yes, you are right. Whichever is required for a data engineer, those will be covered.
okay, sure. So those
Even
are able
SQL is
to those things are able to crack. I mean, we can. It is required. Sorry, it is sufficient to crack the interview. Actually,
Yes.
okay, yeah.
even SQL as well. You will cover what is required.
Yes. We'll be having a couple of sessions on the SQL basics as well. If someone is purely from non-IT background or non-SQL not data background, so we'll be having 2 sessions to explicitly talk about the SQL basics.
Okay, thank you.
Any questions? Okay, anyone else? Swati, Krishna? Any questions?
I'm good. Thank you.
Okay. All right, Giri, Venkata, Pavan, all good? Okay. All right, if everyone is good, we can stop here and give back your 5 minutes time today. And we'll catch up tomorrow with introduction session about as per the content, as per the program. Right. All right, thanks everyone, and have a great day ahead. And we'll catch up and hope to see you guys tomorrow session. Thank you.
Thank you.